Good morning, everyone. Saturday morning, August 2nd. This is your wicked Uncle Squinty from the dank basement with a tale of two snuff bullets. Now, you've seen all the various snuff bullets and snuff rockets that are available out there. You have this type, which is the glass vial with the plastic snuffing assembly on top of it, the rocket assembly. You've got the metal bullets like this. You've got pure acrylics. And then you have the most carefully engineered and interesting of all the snuff bullets, which is the Posh brass bullet. A small correction for my friend Tony Snuff. It is not the Poshel brass bullet, as you said in your video. They're not made by Pershel. It is the Posh brass bullet. Here is the original. It is heavy brass. It weighs almost 3 ounces. Maybe even a little more. I should actually get out a scale and weigh this. This is a durable piece of hardware. When you look at these, and if you've never used one of these, they work pretty well. I don't like them as well, even as the acrylic bullets, but it looks cool and it works great. And there's no, flip it and hold the arrow. You just have to turn this bottom dial. If you turn it all the way to that would be clockwise, I guess, you get one size bump, and if you go all the way counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, you get a much larger hit of snuff. I generally don't like to take snuff via bullet unless I have to. If I'm in public, this is a lot more discreet than doing your anatomical snuff box or pinching or using the boxcar method. This is a beautifully made piece of hardware, and it was expensive. Unfortunately, somebody has already come out with knockoffs, including this one. This is not milled of brass. This is made, I think, out of aluminum, or as the Brits would say, aluminium. You can't see it on camera, but it's very easy to feel. On the original Posh bullet, that screw that holds the bottom cap in place, the mechanism in place, is recessed. It's nicely machined. Everything fits tight. On these cheaper aluminum ones, I've never been able to get the screw to go completely recessed. So you always have a little edge of the screw head hanging out, which will catch on clothing and so on. Does it give good hits? Yeah, it works just the same. It just feels cheap. And it is about half the price, I think, of the original Posh bullet, if you can find the original. And I have not been able to. Oh, that's nice. I've got a little bit of taupe raspberry menthol in this one. Generally speaking, if you can find one, you want to get the original heavy-duty Posh brass bullet. If you can find it, be sure to ask the vendor if it's the original Posh bullet, if it's the heavy brass one, or if it's the aluminum knockoff. I would be very careful buying on eBay because they sell an awful lot of these cheap ones, and they call them the Posh brass bullet. It's not. This is a cheap-ass knockoff, and it works. It's okay. It's a lot lighter weight in your pocket, but it's just not as well made. Now, how do you tell the difference between the two just by sight? Well, for one thing, I'm going to hold these up side by side. The original Posh bullet here is on your right. The cheap knockoff is on your left. If you'll notice with the knockoff, it's not an exact copy. The tip of the real Posh one is tapered. It almost comes to a point, whereas the tip where the snuff comes out on the cheap knockoff is much more rounded. All right, that's one way to tell. And that might be a good way to tell from like photos on eBay. In your hands, there's no doubt which is the real article. The real article is heavy. In fact, it's almost too heavy to carry in a pocket. I do, and I like it, but it's a very heavy little device. A word of caution, I would not try to bring either style through the metal detectors at TSA when you're trying to get on an airplane, or have it in your carry-on bag. On an X-ray, this looks like a big-ass, high-caliber bullet. Hell, I can't even think of what that would be. Maybe even like a small cannon round or something. It's a big bullet, but it looks like ordnance. So you might want to be careful not to try to bring that through TSA. While I've got your attention here, very briefly, I want to talk about the snuff rocket mechanism, the little arrow that you turn. If you haven't seen these before, The way you use these is keeping the arrow upright. You rotate the vial, tap, keeping the arrow always upright, turn it again. Now you have a little scoop inside there full of snuff. Very easy to use. But one problem that this mechanism has is that there is a little rubber O-ring inside. The O-ring serves two purposes. It prevents snuff or other powder from leaking out around the edges of the arrow. And also, it holds that arrow in place and gives a much more positive feel to that scoop that's inside here. What happens is these rings will bind up. And I saw a post on another video, a comment where the person said, it's really hard to move that. And how do I fix that, or what do I do? The short answer is it's very hard to repair those. You need a hemostat or a roach clip or a pair of tweezers, very steady hands, and of course you need a virgin O-ring, which they do sell on eBay. You can find vendors that sell the little rings for these. Sometimes vendors that sell the bullets will also sell replacement O-rings. I think one of the vendors I bought from even included a few extras with the bullets I bought from him. The problem is that they're really, really difficult to put in, to change them out. So you have another option, and that option is if it starts to get really hard to move and you can't turn it, oh, got to be a He-Man, maybe have a pair of pliers or a floor jack or the Jaws of Life or something. If it starts to do that, what you can do is, first of all, clean the bullet thoroughly. Use dish detergent. Don't run these through the dishwasher, but you can use dishwashing liquid. Rinse it very thoroughly, let it dry, and any snuff that might have gotten caked on that O-ring might work itself out. The other thing you can do is just keep working it back and forth like this. Just keep rocking it, rocking it, rocking it. You might even be able to hear that O-ring binding up in there. I don't know if you can. That sometimes will loosen things back up and make them easier to use down the road. But eventually, if anything on these bullets with the little arrow valve that runs the little scoop inside, eventually that O-ring is going to be the first thing to fail on these. Of course, you have the third option, which is just to throw the damn thing away and get yourself a brand new snuff bullet. They're inexpensive enough depending on where you buy them. Frankly, I think that snuffstore.co.uk and Mr. Snuff ridiculously overcharge for these. And with all due respect to Two-Day Tom, Snuff Gear, who is now almost exclusively selling these on eBay and not from a website apart, I think he overprices these. I don't think they're worth the money that's being charged for them. And the way to buy them, of course, then is to go to eBay and find somebody who sells them in lots of 5 or 10. If you buy a lot of these, a lot of 10, for instance, you could be paying as low as $1.50, $2 a piece for these. Whereas if you buy them on Mr. Snuff, they're $4. Okay, so shop around and make sure that you have these fresh on hand. Can these be reused? Yes. Do they clean? Yes. Q-tip will get stuff out of them. As I said, dishwashing detergent, mild soap and water, and rinse thoroughly. That'll get them clean. But they will eventually fail, so you're going to want to keep a couple of these if you use bullets on hand as backups. Rambling a little bit, probably too much coffee. From the dank basement, this is your Uncle Squinty, Paul. I do appreciate all the subscriptions, comments, likes, and I appreciate you watching my videos. Thanks.